So I am joined here today with WhyLearn from YouTube, who does a segment called WhyLearn Wednesdays. Thanks for joining me today, man. It's nice to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So where are you from originally?
Born and raised Wisconsin. Spent almost my entire life in the Milwaukee area and a little bit of time in Madison for university. So been in Wisconsin almost all of my life till recent times where I've been doing a little bit more traveling.
And so what was it like growing up in Wisconsin?
So I did love it. I loved my childhood. I think Wisconsin in the Midwest is known for kind of the stereotype of like nice people, very welcoming people, and I definitely see that. I think it's the winters. The winter is terrible. That's probably my least favorite part. But just so many good friends and good people in my life to that I have, and I credit growing up in Wisconsin for that. Packers may have just lost, but got to get over that too.
During high school, what kind of kid would you describe yourself as?
I was very quiet early on. I think, especially early in high school, I would say I almost struggled to be social because I had grade school and I had some really tight knit, close group of friends there. And then in high school, you're kind of forced to branch out and talk to people you don't know, which I was not very good at for a while. So I definitely focused a lot on school. I was a try hard, really bought into the system of like, I got to get good grades, I got to get good grades, got to go to great school. And so I was quiet, tried hard in school, and then eventually I kind of figured it out later on after discovering healthy habits like going to the gym and joining groups that I was interested in. So I'd say overall quiet, kind of studying kid in high school.
And what path did you decide to take after high school?
So when I got into college, my original plan was to do pre-med. So I was a biochemistry major. And then so I kept trying as hard as I could because you got to get good grades to get into a program like that. But then eventually I discovered that my career path would be a lot of kind of lab work, and my major would be a lot of lab work, which I just did not enjoy at all. I found that when I was doing lab work, I enjoyed like the computer side of it a lot more. So I eventually switched my major to computer science, got a couple internships, and eventually that's been the vast majority of my career so far is software engineering.
You've mentioned in like a few of your videos that you kind of that college was like a pretty like transformative period of your life. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned about yourself while you were in college?
Yeah, I think for me, the beauty of college, I think I almost value this as much as like what you actually learn in class is the social aspect and the dealing with people aspect. So I went to a Big Ten university, like about a 40,000 undergrad, like a very big school, and you get to deal with so many different types of people. So you'll deal with like the guys who are you're partying all the time, the frat bros, and then the quieter people who just want to study, and you got to work with them too. And I think I really valued the social aspect of college because again, kind of like in high school, I was a little bit of a quieter kid, so college really forced me to come out of my shell because I literally lived in dorms with 40 people on your floor and everyone's interacting all the time, and then I had roommates the whole time. So it's really hard to be an introverted person, I guess, in that type of environment. So I was really happy that it brought me out of my shell, and I feel like I'm a lot better just with people now than I was before. I value that more than the actually what I learned, if I'm being honest, because I think I have a lot of opinions on college and what it could how it could be done differently.
I know that a lot of people sort of think that college might not be worth the money anymore these days. Do you think that your kind of social experience was worth going to college for?
Yeah, I don't regret going to college because I think it did work out for me. It was I had in-state tuition, so it wasn't extremely expensive compared to what a lot of other people pay. Uh, and I did end up getting a good job that I think in the application they did require a college degree. So um, yeah, no, I think it was overall a good experience.
Do you think that YouTube has kind of replaced college?
I think it's hard to prove that you have the credential with YouTube. So the thing with college is you're not really paying for what you're learning because you can learn a lot more on YouTube. You're
Mhm.
paying to say I have this certification that I went through this difficult program, and due to that, now I can follow. These I can get the hard work. I can work hard. I can get stuff done. I can deliver stuff. So I think the credential is something that society still needs to figure out because it is less and less viable to go to college if the price keeps going up. And especially with things like AI, I'm glad that AI came out after I was in school because I would have just abused it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have learned anything.
What happened after college? What did you decide to do after college?
Yeah, so my junior year, I got an internship for just kind of a big insurance company in Wisconsin, and then they ended up making me a full time offer, and I graduated a semester early. So what I did that I liked is I could still kind of live like a college kid. I was living with my same roommates that I lived with throughout college, except instead of waking up and going to class, just had a normal job. So I did entry level software engineering role in 2019, and definitely I think my I was fortunate enough to be with a lot of good teams, and my learning kind of exploded from what it was in college to on the job. I feel like I was learning a lot more working than school because I've always liked working better than school. Some people it's a little different, but that's just how I am.
And so that sort of period when you're working to before you started your YouTube channel, kind of what was your life like? Like were you satisfied or were you kind of itching to do more?
There was ups and downs with it. There was some periods where I was really enjoying the team I was on, the projects I was on. Then there was definitely periods where I was like questioning, do I want to stay at the company? Do I even want to stay in this field? Uh, I'd say like I was a pro software engineer for about 6 years, and if there was a good team and good people around you and you were learning, the environment was good. I loved it. But then there's times for months you get put on a project you don't like, or maybe a group of people that you don't get along with as well. And then those are the tough parts when you're like, man, do I want to continue to do this?
So I've never met any software engineers personally. What are they like? What's their personality like?
Well, there's a lot of stereotypes of like, software engineers are extremely antisocial. They just stare at a computer all day and just solve these coding problems. I found the experience to be the opposite. Yeah, there's a lot of awkward, people working. You could say in any field, really, but you can be an introvert and kind of learn how to socialize because as part of software engineering, you have to communicate really well. Like you're working with business people to explain, you know, code stuff to them and explain why something works or try to sell them on why the project has to be done this way. And it actually requires really good communication skills that I think people don't really talk about much, that they're just so focused on the antisocial nature of it. I'd say most of my day to day was, if you consume 8, 9 hour workday, at least half of that was in coding. The other half's meeting and talking to people. And as you kind of move up in the company, it flips. You're coding less and less, and you're talking with other people more and more about the project and planning stuff.
Did things change for your job when COVID happened?
Yeah, so a couple things changed, and I definitely got lucky during COVID. So uh, I lived in Madison, in the capital city of Wisconsin for a while, and that's where I worked. I worked in office 4 days a week, and we just started to have remote work Fridays. So we were like just starting to dip into remote work as COVID hit, and then as you know, the situation escalated pretty fast, and people went from in January, February saying like, oh, it might not be a big deal. We're just watching it to in March, they're like, we're shutting everything down. This is serious. Do not come into work. We're gonna do resume all our operations remotely. So due to being a software engineer, now there was so much demand for on like moving the business model to be online. So they're like all of a sudden these higher up business people are like, hey, we need the software engineering teams to be making it easier for people to buy insurance online because people aren't going to be going, to agents in person anymore. So that made our team pretty important. And in terms of layoffs, like at least in our area, we didn't have any. So I kept my job during COVID, moved back in with my parents, and I just worked remote for a long time after that. And I was able to save a lot of money and kind of capture the upswing in the stock market, which changed my financial future, you could say. So COVID was a tragedy, but financially speaking, it worked out for me, which is kind of weird, almost guilty to say.
Does that sort of lead into your YouTube channel? Can you tell me about your YouTube channel? What inspired you to start it?
I had a couple of cracks at YouTube early on when I was 13, 14, but I was just copying everyone else and it was pretty low quality stuff. So I stopped for a while, but I've always been an avid YouTube watcher. Like even when I was in college, like half the time I was studying in the library, the other half I was just watching random stuff on YouTube, as I'm sure most people do.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was like starting to see a couple good people come up in the just the YouTube space. Like a couple names would be Nico Yaps. I don't know if you've heard of him. He plays Minecraft and talks about random life topics. I
Hmm.
saw him get to like 100,000 subscribers, and I was like, wow, this is like really cool. But it's Minecraft. It's a game that's relevant now. Then another guy came up in my feed. His name was Loaded Buggy, and he started making like YouTube videos talking about life and nostalgia in the old video game scene, like the old games that I used to play when I was a kid. And he was getting a lot of views. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, I thought I was the only one who felt this way, like just getting nostalgic about these old games, missing the good old days. And I was like, I would love to throw my own spin on this. So 2024 August, decided to bite the bullet, make my YouTube channel. Things changed a little bit from there as I got more successful there.
Yeah, I think you're sitting at almost 28,000 subscribers, right?
Yeah, it's about 25, I think. Yeah, close.
Congratulations, dude. Good accomplishment.
No, I appreciate that. The whole thing was I wanted to, like, the world is getting a lot more complex and challenging, and there's a lot of challenges of like technology and how it impacts finance, how it impacts dating, and it can be pretty complicated. So I wanted to make a channel as kind of a roadmap to just give my thoughts, kind of as if I was talking to myself when I was 18, 19 years old, because I think a lot of people could give guidance, and a lot of people who have, at least for me, I've some life experience. I mean, I've not lived an extraordinary life by any means, but I think I have enough experiences and stories to where some people can maybe benefit.
Yeah, do you think there's a lack of resources out there for people navigating their 20s, in particular young men? Because it seems like a lot of your questions that you get are usually from young men in their 20s.
Yeah, that is the vast majority of my audience. And that's an interesting question, actually. Like specific resources, because you go to college and they just kind of teach you concrete things like whatever you study, business, science, whatever. And then people don't really tell you how to actually live your life. I feel like there's not many classes on how to set up your personal finances or how to navigate dating. I feel like all of this stuff is stuff that takes up a lot of time and energy of these young 20 some males,
Hmm.
and there's just no education on it really outside of YouTube videos. That's an interesting question. That one's gonna get me thinking later. Yeah.
Well, it just seems like I think there's a lot of different channels on YouTube that seem to have advice for young men, which I just think is pretty interesting that there's like so many channels that are like just for young men.
Yeah.
So it just gets me wondering, like, are young men like really struggling and feel like they have nobody to ask like in their personal life for? Because
Yeah.
I've always thought it was just kind of an interesting idea that's like, oh, I don't have anybody to talk to in my real life, so I'm gonna look on the internet for like a stranger's opinion to help me out, you know?
Yeah, I think young men kind of are I don't know, almost forgotten like member of society. Like we focused on a lot of other groups of people for a long time now, which you can debate, if that's good or bad. But yeah, I think like a lot of just normal dudes in their 20s feel like outcasts in society. They're not really getting dates. They're struggling to get by financially, and it's basically tough for everyone out there. But yeah, it's a tough world, and it's people need their navigation.
Why did you name your channel WhyLearn?
So a couple reasons. It's a play on my name. It's not exactly what it is, but it's like wordplay with what my name is, and also it's like, why should I continue to improve? Why should I learn? What's there for me if I continue to improve myself and I continue to learn as much as possible? So a couple combinations of things really.
That is really cool. And after people watch this, they're going to start trying to guess your name.
Uh, Sounds similar, but the spelling I'd say is different.
What is your relationship with nostalgia like?
I think it's become healthier over time. Like I think if I'm guilty of just sitting there hours and hours in a day, just thinking about like, oh, I remember when I used to come home from school and play, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and life was good. I could just, play for 8 hours straight and go to bed at 2 in the morning and then wake up at 10, and life was good. And then I think you tend to over idolize the past and like forget that there were things you weren't happy with at the time. Your brain's biased. You tend to only remember the good things about a period of time. But I'd say it's gotten better. I think this YouTube, especially, is a healthy way for me to cope with nostalgic feelings of getting older and the fact that your life looks so much different now than it did when you were 14. And I think I've improved my relationship with it over time, but it can definitely be. It's kind of like a drug. Like you can go on YouTube and watch videos from 2010, and it takes you back, and it's good sometimes, but it has to be done in a healthy way.
Are there things about the adult life now that you think are positive, that are like better than when you were a kid or a teenager?
Yeah, I think the advancement of technology has pros and cons. I think it's easier to learn information than it's ever been, and honestly, when you're older and you have a lot more independence, you have your own money, you can make your own decisions. Don't have to run everything by mom and dad. But yeah, I'd say life's definitely gotten better in certain ways. Like when you're young, all you want to do is grow up. You want to be like, oh yeah, I want to be able to drive, and I want to have a relationship, and I want to make money. And then like a lot of that comes true, and there are benefits to growing up too. Absolutely, I think a lot of our best days are ahead of us. I like to think.
What are the most common problems that people write to you about on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I've kind of like I'd say it's mostly most of my content now is in the finance space. So I do get a lot of financial questions, but I get stuff all across the board. A lot of stuff with dating too. I had a couple viral videos on dating. Uh, just navigating like hardships in your 20s too, and things like loss of family members. Really across the board, I've really gotten to see what young men specifically are thinking about and struggling with. But just the nature of my channel, I mostly get finance questions.
Have you gotten any like super crazy out there questions yet that you haven't put in a video?
Yeah, I definitely get some interesting ones. Like, give me a sec. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. This is one that I made a video on where this guy's like, yeah, I have these two or three, women in my life, and I love all of them. I want to marry all of them, and none of them know about the other. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like most people, it's hard to get one person you love, let alone two, and let alone the fact that you're kind of being shady by doing
Yeah.
this. Not going to end well. You might lose both of them. So I'll definitely get some emails that make me laugh sometimes. That was one of them, and I did make a video on that.
And so, in terms of the dating questions that you get, is it mainly questions about people who are looking for relationships, or is it mainly people who are kind of wanting to get out of relationships?
Mostly people looking to get into one or to find that person. And surprisingly, this is actually something I did not realize going into making these videos, but I made a video called Dating is Important, where I just lay out the case that like young men should get out there, go on dates. You can learn about yourself, you can learn about what you want, you can meet different people, and that's a good thing. And I got a lot of pushback from people who completely have given up on dating. And I get it because it's tough out there. I was single for, good couple years in my 20s, and it was definitely like a challenge. And I say that as someone who's at a stable job, and I think I'm okay in a lot of those situations. And it's tough. Like you get ghosted a lot. You have to play guessing games with texts, and the dating apps can be draining. And I completely understand why people check out, but I'm trying to get them to not do that. I think there's a lot to be gained from at least trying at the very minimum.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite videos that you've done.
Yeah, thank you. It was
'Cause
that was one of my first ones too. That was one of my first that hit the algorithm, you could say. It was kind of into dating dynamics. I think if you're a dude and you really focus on who you are and how to become a better version of yourself, you can get more dates. I mean, there's a lot of really, I would say, unattractive friends that I have, like physically unattractive, but they're chill dudes. They might be successful, and they can get relationships. So it's like looks aren't everything. It's just one factor in it. So yeah, I definitely want people to be more positive with regards to them thinking about themselves. So overall on the channel, it's mostly positive, but kind of as with everything, you hone in on the negative comments, and those are the ones that kind of sit in your head at the end of the day. So I'm getting better at that personally, trying to focus more on, the 10 positive comments you get instead of that one guy who calls you a loser and an idiot.
What do you think about the current dating space in America right now?
So I've been out of it for a little bit now, but I was in it for a while, and it's tough. And I'll say this too: it's a lot of things affect it. Technology, I think politics has affected it a lot too. Like religion. So I don't know, to get into politics and religion a little bit. Just the data shows that most men are conservative and most women are liberal, and I think that creates a big divide because I've dated people with opposing political views, and it's fine if you're respectful of each other, but it does create a lot of conflict, especially when crazy things happen, and crazy things seem to happen more and more. So there's a lot of easy ways for the genders, you could say, to get divided. I think politics is one of them. I think dating apps greatly benefit like women more than men because the data shows that if you're a man on a dating app, you'll get a lot less matches than if you're a woman. Um, so I think that makes it a little harder for dudes. It's not impossible. I've too many people in my life who've met, their wives, serious girlfriends on dating apps. So it's not something to write off, but it's a grind. It's just something that you have to do. You got to put in the work for it.
Do you think it's a better path to try to meet people off dating apps as opposed to trying to meet them online?
I do think so. I think that it's kind of like going fishing, right? You want to have as many lines in the water as you can. So you got one of them's your dating app. That's one thing you can maybe spend 20 minutes a day on. And then you want to do stuff in real life. For me, when I was in Milwaukee and I was single, I'm a Christian, and I would go to kind of these church groups, and I found that at these church groups, I'd meet people with similar values and who are looking for relationships more than if you go to kind of like the bar, some random bar or something. So it's all about finding people who you think you'd be similar to, and just showing up and honestly making friends like in a non-romantic way. Because if you expand your friendship circle, all of a sudden you become friends with Jim, and then Jim gets a girlfriend, and Jim's girlfriend has a couple single friends. That's how you can make stuff happen too, is just by making more friends.
Where do you think people should look for, I guess, like a healthy relationship?
Yeah, and then kind of the comments on the bar thing too. I mean, anything is possible with any location. Like you could literally meet your girlfriend in a grocery store or something. Like anything's possible. It's just you want to go to places where you have the highest probability of meeting someone who like matches you. So I like to think of healthy habits. So like, a running group, for example, or a workout class. Eventually you start running into the same people, and that's not a bad way to make friends. And if somebody's working out, that means that at the minimum they care about that part of themselves, and that's a good thing, to be with someone who cares and cares about taking care of themselves. And then if you're a Christian, if you're a religious person, uh, look for groups like that, because obviously there's going to be value alignment there. Um, I've been a big advocate of like doing stuff, getting involved with volunteering or a church or something. Um, but I understand there's guys out there who are not into that, so got to get creative with your values. I'd say workout classes is probably the second best option if you're not of the religious type.
I think it kind of segues too into like friendships because I know you've done like one video, I think, on friendship, but
Hmm.
do you think that men, young men today, are kind of lacking in the friendship area too?
Yeah. Let me think about that one. In terms of my generation, I think my generation was the last one to not be chronically online all the time. Like when we were young, we didn't have smartphones. I didn't get an iPhone till much later in high school, and because of that, I think I learned a lot of the skills to make friends in real life. But I think there's a lot of lonely guys out there, especially if you weren't in a situation where you really had to be social, like you didn't go to a university where you lived there, or maybe you're an introvert in high school, kind of similar to I was. Uh, it seems like loneliness is kind of an epidemic, and it is on the rise. And I think I've been a little bit removed from that issue. I see it sometimes. Um, I'm not sure a good solution to that at the moment, because I hate telling people like, oh, you're lonely, just go show up at something. Like it's always more complicated than that. So that's something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, and I think especially with kind of the rise of like remote work too has contributed to it some. So when your job switched to remote work, did you find that you were just a little bit more lonely than when you were going into the office?
In certain ways, yes. Certain ways, no. So I moved back in with my whole family. So my parents, my sister, all ended up being in the same house. So I was still around people all the time. And yeah, we got tired of each other. But I was lucky to where I wasn't isolated because a lot of people did have to just completely live alone. And I did have a period of time. This was a little bit, this was still during COVID. This was 2021 where I moved into an apartment by myself and my job was still basically fully remote. And I would go kind of crazy. I'd be like, wow, I haven't talked to another person in real life in like a week. And it just, that really gets to you. Um, the remote work's definitely contributed to it, but it seems like remote work is, I wouldn't say ending, but a lot of companies are forcing return to office. So I'm curious how that plays out in the next 5 years too.
Do you have any opinions about what people can do to kind of feel less lonely?
Yeah, it depends on what you enjoy doing. If you have any hobbies that can translate to real life things, that's something to explore. I know for me, during COVID, I tried random things like rock climbing and workout classes again. Anything that you enjoy and you just show up to consistently, you eventually run into more people. And don't be afraid to say what's up to someone. Say, hey, how you doing? How long have you been coming to this group? Do you like it? Stuff like that. Small talk can go a long way, no matter how much us introverts hate it.
I think you've mentioned before in some of your videos about how the gym and working out has improved your overall well-being. Can you talk a little bit about your fitness journey?
Yeah, so early in high school, I was definitely, as I've said, quiet kid, a little bit depressed, and didn't really have much aside from like just trying hard in school. I didn't have a big group of friends. I had just some friends I knew from my hometown, and definitely felt lonely and isolated then. And what I started doing, just kind of random chance, I started going to this gym near my house pretty much because I heard some people talking about it at the job I was at, and I was like, huh, maybe I can be a little more attractive if I go to the gym. I was a pretty skinny guy, so I started going to the gym, and I was went from being skinny to at least putting on some muscle and seeing pretty tangible progress pretty quickly, and it became almost like addicting to where it's like, wow, I can see myself like overcoming this obstacle and see myself get better in a tangible way. And it just gave me more confidence in other areas of my life. So once I was once I was working out more, I got more confidence. And then all of a sudden I was doing better in school. And then all of a sudden I was more confident to go make friends, more confident to ask girls out. And I point to the gym as like the biggest thing that at least cured my depression is because there's obviously science behind it where uh your brain releases the feel good chemicals after a good workout, and it trickled into other areas of my life. It was like it proved to yourself that if you can get one win in this area, you can get wins in other areas of your life. So for anyone who's going through a hard time, uh if you're not working out, I think that's like the easiest single thing you can start doing regularly and just see if it makes a difference, because it did for me.
What's your workout routine like?
Yeah, so I do. It's originally it was mostly just lifting, when you're a 16, 17-year-old with an ego. Now the beer belly's starting to come in as a 28-year-old, so we got to do a lot more cardio. Uh, I didn't run one last year, but I've tried to at least be in half marathon shape. So I've run a half marathon almost every year for the last 4 or 5 years. And then on top of that, I just have a lifting regimen. I don't try to lift crazy heavy weights anymore, just to stay flexible, stay functionally strong, and honestly, just the act of getting into the gym. Once you set foot in the gym, you've already won half the battle. Uh, so just trying to stay consistent, trying to at least keep myself in a shape to where I feel good about myself, because it boosts other areas of your life. You do a good workout, then you feel like you accomplished something that day at the very minimum, and it helps with your work, helps with a lot of other things.
When you were starting up your YouTube channel, did you have anybody that you were listening to for life advice?
Um, specifically in our space, I was watching, Nico Yaps and Loaded Buggy, but in a lot of other, like there's a lot of other like big names that I've enjoyed listening to. Like I know Jordan Peterson's kind of controversial in the political scene, but I think he's a brilliant psychologist, and a lot of stuff he says I think is very interesting. So I've always enjoyed some of his content, and yeah, that's the name that comes to mind right now. I think there's a lot of good people out there who, they might not always say stuff you agree with, but it's interesting to just hear people's perspective, especially if they've kind of studied human psychology for a long time.
Do you get a lot of political questions on your channel?
Uh, Sometimes I made a couple of videos about politics. I try not to preach, what I believe on anything. I'd say I'm a right leaning guy. I'm not a crazy super Trump supporter or anything like that. Uh, I believe in I believe in listening to both sides. I try to any problem I get on my channel, I try to play the devil's advocate and just be like, okay, so this is maybe what I believe, but here are the valid points on the other side, and these are respectable points, and there's the answer might lie somewhere in the middle.
Does your family watch your channel?
Uh I
Does,
don't. So I've told them I've had it, but I kind of just told them like it's not. I don't know if it's their thing. They might not get it. They're in their 50s and 60s. So I haven't really advertised to people in my life that I have a channel yet. I'd say the people I game with, they know. And then yeah, just close people in my life know, but uh some videos I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with them watching. And then I don't know if you're talking about like depression or like, the dating scene or something. I'm like, yeah, do I really want my mom and dad to watch that? Is it gonna change? Is it gonna change what I'm saying in the video if I know that they're watching?
yeah,
Which is, I don't know. That's true. That's like, to me, I do my best videos when I'm as real as I can be. But if I know like, my entire social circle in real life is gonna hear it, like, I don't know. Then I can't like, talk crap about people.
do you have any regrets so far in your life?
That's a deep question. So overall, no, because I do believe that each setback you have teaches you valuable lessons. Don't regret my experiences in high school. Don't regret experiences in college. I think, anything you try things, you try the party lifestyle, and you realize, oh, that's really not for you. I would have rather tried that when I was 19 as opposed to trying it now as a 28-year-old. Um, I would say I really don't have regrets. Maybe coming out and trying different things outside of the traditional path sooner, like making a YouTube channel, for example, much earlier than I did. Like I sat in a library and consumed YouTube videos for like 8 years. And I'm like, okay, what if I was actually making videos that whole time? Given that in 4 months, I've, 25,000 subs. What if I was making videos for 8 years? Who knows where I'd be? So maybe I regret not starting to do those kind of non-traditional things sooner. But
And I,
overall, I don't know, because I think I value the experiences I got in those 8 years as well. Like I think something that makes me relatable too, as opposed to a lot of other influencers, is like I was a normal dude working a 9 to 5 insurance job for a long time. And that gives me experiences that are more relatable than if I became this YouTube guy early on, or I didn't live life like a normal person.
I know in the video you've mentioned that you've quit your 9 to 5 job for a little bit. Can you tell me sort of what your plan is, what you want to do next?
Yeah, so quit my 9 to 5 job in November. Um, Basically to travel more, to be with my girlfriend, and just try to follow my dreams. So I think my if my life goes perfectly in the next 5 years, I'd like to think I have a YouTube presence that I can affect a lot of people on, and I could even live off of. And then I don't want to get off of software either. I do want to do freelance software work. I've just been taking a little bit of a break from it for a couple months here. But I would love to kind of explore routes and creative ways to live and make money that might not be traditional, and see where that takes me.
One thing I really appreciate about your videos is like how in detail you get. Like particularly the video where you talked about your process to quit your 9 to 5
Yeah,
and how you were like you can't just quit. You have to take preparation months in advance with your finances and everything.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what was there like an incident or something that happened that made you say I want to quit my job for a little bit, or was it kind of gradual over time?
Uh, I'd say a little bit of both. I'll explain kind of the whole process. So I um I was kind of starting to feel unfulfilled at work. Like I was making good money and that kept me in it for a long time because financial stability is important. And I think there's too many people on YouTube saying like, "Oh yeah, just quit your job right now. Like just go do it. You're wasting your time." It's like, well, that could put people in a lot of bad situations because you don't want to quit something with zero plan lined up. Like when I quit my job, I had two other income streams. One of them was dividends from investing, and the other one was YouTube because I quit my job when I had about 10K subs. So I wasn't making nothing. And then I went to live in a lower cost of living country too with my girlfriend. And so then I could live off of like my passive income there. So I had a plan. It's not like I just woke up and quit. I kind of realized I wanted to go on this adventure. I wanted to go my own way. And my girlfriend's family is from Latin America. So I kind of had this route that I could take. And I'm like, okay, I decided that I was going to quit. And from there, I made a plan. So I moved back here with my parents so I could save an extra, I don't know, 2,000 a month. And I'm grateful to them for allowing me to do that. But I had a big plan. I wanted to make passive income in a couple different ways so that when I actually did leave, not only did I have a big, cushion of just savings from my investments, but I also had other income coming in, so I wasn't making nothing. It's very, very crucial to be very proactive. If you do want to quit your job, it's not like something you can do lightly. And I could be harming my career too, because it's kind of weird to just move up in the software world and then just quit randomly. Like if I want to go back to work, I'm gonna have to explain this to people. I made sure that if everything goes wrong for me right now, I'll still be fine because I've like years longs of savings I could tap into if I need to, just from living cheap throughout my 20s, and I still have other income. So I'm not, I'm going a little bit negative right now as YouTube's growing and as I'm figuring out other things, but there's always a plan. Like you got to be money is a thing. It's unfortunate that we're bound by the constraint of money, but that's just the reality of it. And the good news is you can make a plan to beat it and be able to go on an adventure.
If you had to give like, you know, top three financial tips
Yeah.
for young men kind of in their 20s, what would you give them?
Yep. So I'll umbrella this by saying not a pro financial advisor. I'm just talking about my experiences and my opinions that have worked for me in the past, may not work for everyone. Always got to add that disclaimer in there. But I'd say if there's one sentence to remember, and then I'll get into the next three. One sentence is make the gap between what you spend and what you make as big as you can and invest the difference in something safe and long term. A lot of dudes make a couple easy mistakes. I'd say buying like an expensive car right away is one of them. You don't need to buy a 20, $30,000 car. Buy something that's used, that's reliable, that's safe. That can save you a lot of money in the long run. And then just don't overstretch yourself with other things too. Food delivery apps can be just terrible for your finances. If you get too expensive of an apartment, I lived with roommates for a while. I even moved back in with my parents for a while, which it really set me up financially. Like I lived this cheap lifestyle, and then I got to age 28 and I'm like, oh, holy crap, I literally, like, I'm making money off of my dividends now just for saving and investing all this money. And now I have more freedom. Like a lot of my friends who chose the expensive lifestyle, yeah, they might have a really sick apartment or a really nice car, but if something happened to them at their job, they'd be totally toast. Whereas I can just go quit my job and I don't have anything to really worry about in the near term. Now I'm not like, I can't retire or do anything crazy like that, but I'm comfortable. I don't have to have a job right now at this moment in my life. And I attribute that to the decisions I made in my 20s, just being cheap and investing.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned in your life?
Man, these are great questions. Ugh. I'd say, I don't know, there's no way to not be cliche here, but I'd say you gotta keep showing up in all aspects of life, whether that be finding a job, whether that be dating. The failures are gonna be vast. You will fail frequently and you'll fail all the time and you'll get humiliated, you'll get embarrassed, and you just have to keep going. Got to keep going on dates. You got to keep applying to jobs. You got to keep making YouTube videos. You really don't know when your lucky moment could be. and your life could change at any moment. You could go on that date that the girl that becomes your wife, or you could, interview for that job that changes your life and your career and your finances forever. You could make that YouTube video, kind of in my case, like a couple of my videos when I had 50 subs blew up, and that changed my whole YouTube journey because gave me an audience, gave me uh, an extra thing I could do in my spare time. So I just never give up because you never know when your moment could be, despite how dark of a situation you might be in.
In your opinion, what should what should young men really focus on, like when they're in their early 20s? Because there's like, different things that they write to you about, dating, finances, job, friends, and all that. Working on all that at once sounds like really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what do you think men should do to sort, if they're I guess if they're at ground zero and they want to improve their life?
Yeah, that's another good question. Um, you got to accept that, especially in your early 20s, the feelings that come with it. You're going to feel lost. You're going to wonder what your purpose is. You're going to have no idea what's going on. You're going to feel like a failure. You're going to see one of your friends, get married and become rich, and you're still living with your parents. You're going to have things like that happen. Um, you have to focus on your day-to-day life. Every day, what can you do to be better? So I like to, when you make goals, like goals are often pretty big. Like I want to get in amazing shape. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to make 100,000 this year. You have to map that down to daily concrete things. So if you want to get in good shape, be like, okay, I have to work out 5 times this week. If you want to be a YouTuber, okay, I have to make 3 videos every week. And just focus on your day-to-day life, especially if you're young, and identify what you want out of your life. If someone gave you a magic wand and said, you can have any type of life you want, like, what would you say? And then depending on that answer, map that back into your daily actions. And if you don't know what you want, that's okay too. Then you have to explore, try new things. I'd say if you're early on, just try a bunch of different things because you can screw up a lot in your 20s and you still have a ton of time to correct it. So focus on your day to day to improve yourself and try a lot of new things to figure out what you like. Try different jobs, different careers, learn about different things, go to, try to meet different groups of people, explore, different cultures, anything to get a little bit of variety. Um, that includes stuff like dating as well.
And so, WhyLearn, what are you up to right now, and where can people find you online?
I literally just have a YouTube. I have no other social media right now. So I'm sure you'll link the YouTube in the description below. I've thought about, when can I do other things? I don't like to start stuff without a plan. So in the future I might have like an X account or a Discord or something, but I haven't decided on that yet. So I haven't decided on that yet. So YouTube for now is the best way to reach me, or my email. If you have any in-depth questions, try to get back to as many people as I can. I'll give you my email to link below as well, especially for my series.
Cool. Well, thank you, WhyLearn, for joining me today. It was very nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You're a good interviewer. A lot of great questions there. A couple of those I'll be thinking about later. Excited to watch this on your channel. Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun.